Welcome to Research Perch from the Massage Therapy Foundation. Short, practical insights into massage therapy research and how it can benefit your practice.
Hello, I'm Robin Anderson, President of the Massage Therapy Foundation, and welcome to another edition of Research Perch. Today, we begin a multi-part series on an exciting project of the foundation that was embarked on just about a year or so ago in an effort to support safe practices and promote career longevity for massage therapists. This project is called the Ergonomics Project. This project has been navigated by massage therapy professionals with all unique backgrounds that have relevance to the formation of this endeavor. Educators, practitioners, and researchers, all with a vested interest and expertise in creating recommendations based in research for the safe and effective practice of massage therapy. To get a true picture of how we work, the foundation partnered with Briotix Health, a professional ergonomics and workplace safety firm, to help us embark on this important work. So in order to understand the relevance and impact that ergonomics plays in physical work and activities, joining us today from Briotix Health is our lead ergonomics consultant of our projects, Mr. Stefan Shulz. Thank you, Stefan, for joining us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Great. So let's get started. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Briotix Health and tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of, what got you into this line of work?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. So, Briotix Health is focused on the prevention and the care and treatment of musculoskeletal disorders in the workplace. So we embed our providers, who are physical therapists, athletic trainers, people trained in the human body, and we embed them in the workplace to identify what causes injuries, what can we do to prevent them, and should they occur, we're instrumental in caring for people so they can return to work safely and quickly. So we perform this kind of work in all different kinds of industries, with all different kinds of workers, from the office to heavy industry to service industries, and we do perform this work worldwide. A lot of it is on-site. It's been a tough year for on-site services, as you well know. So we have shifted, and we're able to perform a lot of this work virtually as well. So that's the core. That's the core focus of what we do. My department specifically is dedicated to more focused ergonomic projects that look into what are the systemic causes for ergonomic risk in the workplace, and then how can we put together a more comprehensive plan in order to address them from a process perspective.
Interesting, very interesting. So what got you into this line of work? So what is your background in?
Yeah, it's probably, if you ask us, a lot of us have similar stories. I'm a physical therapist by training. I was a physical therapist tasked with treating injured workers in a clinic, an outpatient clinic. And if you do this for long enough, you end up seeing a pattern of treating people for their shoulder injuries or their low back injuries, typically those two. And then you send them back to work only to see them come back a couple of weeks later, re-injured. And so I felt, about 20 years ago, that there's got to be a better way. And I specifically looked for a company. I felt like somebody must do this. And I found this company at the time called Precare, who's dedicated to doing just that, that allowed me as a physical therapist to treat on site and gain an understanding of what are people actually doing at work that gets them injured. Because I felt like I'd be in a better position to help them effectively not only prevent the injuries, but also effectively treating them and returning them to work. So that's probably the story for a lot of us.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely relate to that because that's how I got interested in ergonomics as well. I worked in an occupational health clinic as part of my practitioner life. And that was one of the things that the purpose for my being there in that occ health clinic is that I would see these manufacturing workers come in and they would have these musculoskeletal injuries, musculoskeletal disorders and conditions. And I wanted to get to the bottom of why do they keep coming back? Why do they keep having these issues? Maybe if we could figure out what they're doing and how they're doing it, maybe we could make it better. And so that's kind of how I got into ergonomics.
You have to speak their lingo, right?
Yeah.
In order to effectively help them. Yes.
Right. So it's so great that, you come from that place. And so many massage therapists, whether they have ergonomics background or not, they have that mindset too, in terms of they just want to help their clients and their patients. So, it's great that, you have that sort of passion and viewpoint at the same time. That's wonderful. So let's kind of paint the picture of what ergonomics is. We're throwing this term around a lot, but explain exactly what the term or concept of ergonomics is.
Right. So ergonomics is literally the study of work, right? Okay. Ergo means work. Ergonomics, the study of work. So I think the first thing to realize is ergonomics is about the work, not the worker necessarily. It's really task focused on what is the nature of the work. And we look at ergonomics through the lens of OSHA recognized ergonomic risk factors. There's 5 of them. Mm-hmm. So whenever we look at any work, what we typically do is we break down the work into its component parts, right? That's called job analysis, meaning you take the job and you break it down into its essential functions and tasks so you can identify what you're looking at any time. And then we look at these individual component parts of the job in terms of the ergonomic risk factors, and they are force, awkward posture, excessive repetition, contact stress, and some other environmental factors. So whenever we talk about ergonomics, we look at ergonomics in the study of work. What does this task look like from the perspective of its ergonomic risk profile with regard to those 5 ergonomic risk factors? So each ergonomic risk profile needs to consider all those 5. Sometimes people think it's posture, and it is posture, but it's not only posture, right? Awkward posture combined with other risk factors make a task a lot more risky than just posture itself. So that is one piece. And so the other piece of performing ergonomics in practice is not just identifying the risk, but then taking the next step to, well, what do we do to mitigate the risk? Right. And so we talk about ergonomics controls in 3 buckets. One of them are engineering controls, engineering or equipment controls, meaning can you eliminate the risk through automation? Mm-hmm. Or through some other implementations of equipment that would affect these ergonomic risk factors that I was just talking about. The second piece is what's called administrative or management control solutions. That has to do with the pacing of the work and the scheduling so that ergonomic risk factors don't accumulate over the course of the day. This is where we get into how many hours is a massage therapist required to work? How long is the exposure? Is there something we can do to lessen that exposure? And that's not up to them. That has to do with what the schedule looks like. Okay. Things like task rotation, job rotation, those are administrative control type of solutions. And then the third one is what we call behavioral solutions. So a lot of people think of body mechanics. Body mechanics or work preparation strategies like stretching or strengthening, warm-ups. Those are behavioral solutions. Those are things that the person who's performing the work can do on their own without other input. So ergonomic risk factors, 5 of them, risk profile, and from there, we configure the solutions in those three buckets.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, the many massage therapists tend to think that body mechanics is the only concept of ergonomics. But in reality, yes, how we hold our bodies from a postural perspective, as well as how they are conditioned, which kind of goes along the lines of self-care, those are just only two components of things that we do as massage therapists.
Exactly right.
So, and that is sort of the things that when we talk about career longevity in massage therapy, we tend to use those two terms, body mechanics and self-care. But there is that other aspect, which are the administrative controls or the engineering controls that maybe we haven't thought about. And I guess that's why I wanted to sort of touch upon why this would be important to massage therapy work and how it could impact us. So kind of give us your perspective as an ergonomist, studying massage therapists.
Yeah.
How do you feel, what is your perspective on that?
Yeah, so the project took quite a bit of preparation because massage therapy is a unique set of tasks, right? It's not like, and you know this as well, it's very different from walking into a manufacturing floor and to be able to observe like a production line. You can just like go ahead and see everything you can see, in a 10-minute span, right? Massage therapy is number one, is performed usually by providers on their own. So it's in a way a remote workforce, and remote workforces are very, very difficult to observe. You can't just walk into a situation, right? Into a client room and observe the tasks that they're performing. Not only that, you can't even be sure that you've observed everything just by observing one.
Right.
You need to determine, well, how many people do I actually need to see in order to have a decent understanding of what are the actual tasks that are being performed? And does it represent sort of like the community-based massage therapists that we're seeing, or is our sampling just so narrow that we can't really extrapolate, from what we're seeing? So from a perspective of observing and capturing the ergonomic risk factors that I was just talking about, it was a difficult problem. So we solved that through the study design, right? Yeah. But it needed that preparation. So that was one of them. And then the second piece that was interesting about these particular tasks is that we, after discussing it for a while, normally what you need to do as an ergonomist, you have to identify the task before you can analyze it.
Right.
And it's not easy because everybody does their thing different. And so there was this conundrum that we had in the design of this project, where we said, well, should we give everybody the same tasks to perform and be prescriptive so we can have sort of a standardized point of view from an observation perspective, or should we let them do what naturally comes to them with as few prompts as possible, and have the data collection process a little bit more difficult and unstructured, but have the experience be more real? And we opted for the latter, right? So what was unique about this is we allowed everybody to approach the massage in the way they would normally perform it in their own practice, just so we could get an understanding of the breadth and the variability of how massage therapists are actually addressing their work, and they don't see each other. They a lot of times don't have an understanding themselves how other therapists perform the same task. And we very much wanted to show this. We wanted to show the variability in approaches. So I think that's what made this project unique. It's just the nature of the task.
Yeah. And that's what was so difficult about putting the structure to it, and why it's been so difficult for the profession up until this point in being able to make viable recommendations. There's so many different modalities in body work. There's so many different settings. Then you have different body shapes, different body styles, different approaches, different settings. I mean, we really struggled as a committee to try to come up with, well, what can we do? And maybe the answer is, maybe we just go from a very broad approach first, more generalized, and then as we get into the project, see if it's worth it to start, parsing it out in more specific ways. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's been our most difficult challenge in terms of making recommendations for our profession at large. Yeah, I completely understand. And the committee definitely tried to rise to that occasion to give you guys that foundation that you needed. So,
Yes.
so just to kind of bring this sort of to a close, tell me about a project that you have done where a significant impact was realized in reducing risk factors. And it does not have to be massage therapy related, just, in terms of how ergonomics at play really made a huge difference.
Yeah. A lot of times I would say the most successful recommendations are the simplest. Maybe a good example would be cake decorating. So cake decorating, maybe you can relate to it because cake decorators have very similar risk factors to massage therapists. They deal with sustained postures, and sustained postures is an ergonomic risk factor. So we were analyzing and trying to find a solution for this working population. In this task, cake decorators squeeze bagging pipes a lot, right? And they're very susceptible for, musculoskeletal disorders of the distal upper extremity just from the exertion and the awkward postures they're in. Right. And we found specific piping tips that were able to squeeze out and create patterns on the cake with one squeeze rather than 5 squeezes, just by using a different tip that cost $1.
Oh,
so
wow.
we saved if you're looking not just from an ergonomic risk perspective, we've saved 5 squeezes because now you can make this holly berry. We called it the holly berry tip around Christmas time.
Yeah.
So you can squeeze just one full holly berry and you save 5 separate exertions. So not only do you lower the ergonomic risk exposure, but you're also saving time, which is usually a great thing.
Yeah,
if you can accomplish both at the same time, you're lowering ergonomic risk. Employees feel better, they're less fatigued, and you speed up the process of the task as well.
Yeah,
so it's win-win-win.
That's a cost benefit analysis right there. Yeah, that's great. I never thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right. And that is very similar to massage therapists too.
Yeah, so that's an example of of an equipment solution. Even though it's a low-cost equipment solution, equipment solutions don't need to mean that you're spending an arm and a leg. It could literally be $1 solution.
Excellent. That's very cool. Well, we are looking forward to seeing more information about the Ergonomics Project. As I said, this is our first in this series, but we will have many more episodes on Research Perch on the Ergonomics Project. So, Stefan, I'm sure you'll be joining us again in a future episode.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, thanks again. Thank you for joining us today. And that wraps it up for another edition of the Research Perch.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider donating to the Massage Therapy Foundation so that we can continue to bring you this and many other resources to increase your knowledge and improve your practice. Thank you.